All right, thank you guys for joining. It's really good to have you here. I'm Gabe Paez, CEO of The Wild, and really excited to show off all we've done on SketchUp and really talk to you about what you can do with SketchUp and what you can do especially with immersive collaboration in SketchUp. So, The Wild is immersive collaboration for teams. We built The Wild so that you can basically leverage your entire team immersively inside of this content, whatever that may be. If you're working in SketchUp or any other 3D program, putting you all together inside of that content from anywhere in the world. And I'm really excited to show you what that's like and how you can use it in different ways, and honestly, just how easy it is to get started. So we're going to dive right into that right now, starting in a familiar place with SketchUp. Okay, so we were gracious enough to get this model from OMFG Co., a early customer of ours here in Portland, Oregon, where we're located. They designed this bar for Pink Rabbit. This is actually now a real place built out in the world, and we're going to use it for the purposes of this demonstration today. So let's just look at the bare bones basics. How do you get this? I've got this SketchUp model. I've got some scenes here. I've got some content. How do I get this into the wild? So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then I'm going to switch myself over to the wild. Oh, yes, down here. All right, so from the wild, I just go, so the wild, when you start it up, this is what it looks like. What you have teams that you belong to on the left. You have projects inside of those teams right here. And then every project is full of spaces, which is sort of like our document type inside of the wild. Space can contain all sorts of things like content, SketchUp models, just FBX files, videos, images. So all of those sort of composite inside of these shared spaces in the cloud that you can access from any computer anywhere in the world. And then there are collections, and I'll dive into those a little bit later. But for now, we're going to go up here to new space, and we're going to create a space from a file. So select file, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab this SketchUp space right here and hit create. Now, what's happening right now is initially it brings that space in, it is optimized, and then ultimately it starts uploading it to our cloud. So you'll see here we get this, we're able to preview what that's going to look like once it's inside of the wild. All the dimensions are correct. We don't really need to change anything here. And so we can just hit upload. And I'll show you what a few of these other things we'll do a bit later on. But for the purposes of just getting a SketchUp model right in, you just want to make sure that the sizing comes in correctly, which it should when you're coming from SketchUp, and upload it directly into the model. Now this upload process, what happens is we bring it up into our cloud, we optimize it for delivery on all of these different platforms, because the wild you can access on Windows, Mac, on a number of VR headsets, which are all listed on our website, thewild.com, also on iOS and Augmented Reality, which I'll show you later as well. Many of our SketchUp users are working in SketchUp on macOS, and so the Wild offers a unique opportunity to basically get you inside of use virtual reality with SketchUp directly from a Mac. So I'll show you. Nick's going to be joining me here, and he's going to help me. I'm going to show you what we recommend in terms of using a headset. Hello, Nick. Say hello.
Hello.
So for SketchUp on a Mac, and generally you'll be uploading with SketchUp, and then, uploading on your Mac, and then you can use something like the Oculus Quest here, which is a $400 standalone headset, so you don't need a separate computer to run it to access that space. And so when he joins in, he'll show us that. So, but to start here, now we've got our space in the wild. I can open up that space, and you see now it's streaming here for me locally. Now I'm able to move around this space and navigate it naturally. I can look at it. So right now we start inside of our workshop mode. So our workshop mode is sort of this design space within, we call it the artboard in the center of the space. It gives you access to your model. But then also, of course, you can teleport yourself down into one-to-one mode inside of this space and look at it, at one-to-one scale. But I don't want to just look at this alone. I want to look at this with collaborators. So Nick is going to head into the other room and join us. But I don't just want Nick to join. I want to show you how you would invite a collaborator who isn't even here at all. So if I go here to our right-click on this space and go to the Share panel, you have a few different options here. I can share it with an email address, and they'll receive an invite to come join this space. And I can give them view or edit permissions on the space. So of course, this is like the client use case. You want them to come in and view your space, but you don't necessarily want to give them access to change anything inside of it. So you would give them view permission. But for a team member, somebody who already has access to my team, I can just go ahead and copy a link to this space. And then I can change myself over into Slack, paste that link, and then allow a collaborator to come inside. So that's, I've got a few people inside of that space, but Misha is going to be joining us in addition to Nick. So there we have Nick. It looks like already inside of the space. Hello, Nick. How are you? Good. And
good.
Okay, good. And there we've got Misha. Hello, Misha.
Hey there.
So Misha's actually joining from Salem, Oregon. He's it's physically, not anywhere in the same vicinity, but this works across the world. Just this morning before this webinar, I was talking to a group in the UK, and it's just like it's the exact same thing, whether they're located in the same space or across the world. So you see here, we can now all come into this space together. We can see each other. You do have control over your avatar color. Perfect. You guys get the party started. It's very early here in Portland, but sure. In VR, anything goes. So you can also see here, I'm just joined in 2D mode here, so I don't have to be necessarily in a VR headset to join, but I can switch back and forth into a headset if I want to. Okay, so let's say, though, that I want to live iterate on this and make a change. So let's say I want to pull that plant out. Now, it's just as easy as me coming back over here into my SketchUp model. I can go ahead and select this object. I can delete it and resave that file. Coming back over into the space, I can then click on the dot menu on the file and click Replace Source File. And this is basically just your workflow for iterating on top of it. Basically now it does a new import, but the cool thing to keep in mind here is that both Misha and Nick are still logged into that space. They're still accessing it, and so they're going to get a live update of this content into the space in real time. And so that's super powerful, just like the ability to go back and forth and iterate on this content in real time, even all the way from SketchUp, if that's what you would like to do. So one of the interesting things about the Wild is it's not just this ability to iterate directly to and from. So now we're back here into the space, and you can see that plant is gone. But what I want to show you, that's basically our workflow for iterating from SketchUp to the Wild. You can push these updates to the Wild, and then, for Nick and Misha, they're seeing those updates happen in real time. But also, we're able to iterate from inside of the Wild. So Nick and Misha have access to a number of our tools in virtual reality, which let you do different things. You can, first, let's just look at exploring the SketchUp model itself, so layers. Can one of you come down here and show us the layer tool in action?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Okay. Thanks, Misha. So Misha's going to go ahead and attach on our layer tool. It allows you to explore these different layers, go ahead and toggle them on and off. and you can see what it's like, without our beams or our stool. And those are actually the exact same layers from SketchUp, just surfaced in the wild. So it's super easy to change what you see here. And in this way, there are all sorts of uses for this. One way is just to deconstruct the space and reconstruct it so that you can sort of structure a presentation or explore it in a better way. The other way is to do optionality across layers. So you have option A, B, and C. You can structure a few different layers with that content and then explore it, from right inside of the wild from anywhere in the world. So there's a lot of possibility there. The second thing is asset control. So these chairs were a part of the SketchUp model. Nick or Misha can go over and actually grab the chairs. You saw them grabbing like the bottles before and move them. So items are manipulatable and modifiable inside of the wild to iterate on that design, to try different things in real time. So you're not just stuck viewing this space, but there's a real playfulness to being able to explore all that you can do immersively outside of SketchUp, and then you can bring, your best changes back into SketchUp. We just released today our grab tool that just launched this morning. Can you guys show that off a little bit? Basically, what the grab tool does is it just allows you to grab objects and then align them really easily to surfaces. So it's great for an interior design use case. You can take something and snap it right onto the floor, but it's not just the floor. It's you can put someone sitting on a chair or objects onto a wall. Like if you have a picture, you can put it right on the wall. And it just helps create a more natural interaction and flow for working immersively inside of the wild. Oh, yeah, so you see here, it looks like Nick brought out the second thing I want to show you, which is the support for other content, including video inside of the wild. So he made, this screen with a video on the back of it, but also you can bring in alpha videos, so silhouette videos. Those are super cool. It's basically a new way to do a scale model inside of the wild. Scale reference inside of the wild, but utilizing video instead. So you can see, you have these silhouetted people inside of the space. Exactly. Perfect. It could just be great to create bring life into a space like this, which would otherwise be sort of a dry, not a dry, but just looking at it as a structural space versus let's really inject some different live elements into this space to show what it's going to be like, not just to look at it as a structure, but to really understand what it's like to be there, to understand the experience of being inside of this bar with a number of people inside of here. Now, you can see back there, Nick is also showing the measurer tool. We launched this recently, and we're super proud of it. Honestly, measuring in the wild is, I would say, far better than measuring in the physical world. You can do it faster, you can do it more precisely, you can measure things that just aren't accessible physically to do in even if you were on site at Pink Rabbit right now. There's a comment tool for laying comments into the space. We have a sketch tool. There's all sorts of stuff you can do once you're immersed here inside of the space. But to get back to, I want to show you a little bit about how you can create some of this individual asset content inside of the wild. So I showed you I was going to come back here to the import screen one more time and show you if I came here and let's say I was going to create a new space from this file. Okay, so I showed you that initial import screen. I just want to break down some of the more advanced stuff that you can do on that screen once you get inside of it. Basically, there's this option called Save Components as Assets, and what this allows you to do is to break down all of those individual components inside of your SketchUp model and create a collection of those assets inside the wild. And I'll show you what that looks like. But you can also do this for materials, which is super cool. You maybe saw Nick and Misha inside of the wild laying materials onto different surfaces and exploring materiality. There's you can do that super easy, but like, how do you get those materials inside of there to experiment with? And this is how you get those swatches inside of the wild. So if I was to go through that import process, it basically will create a collection which has the space and then has all of these materials and components. So you see the individual bottles here that are used in this model. There are tables. All of that stuff is broken out as these individual assets. And hey guys, can one of you show me your library to show them what that looks like immersively inside of the space? Oops, sorry. So yeah, Misha's going to show exploring the library basically gives him access to all of that different stuff inside of the wild. So he can reach in. Yeah, so just go into, sure, just grab out one of those plants or something. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to spawn one of these, okay, yeah, these are great. One of those models inside of the space, you can just reach in, grab it out, and you have access to it now right here inside of the wild. So if there are assets on the SketchUp warehouse that you want to leverage immersively inside of the wild, this is a great way to get access to those models and start working with them inside of the wild. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and go. Let's space switch. Let's go to that Stumptown space. So I want to show you what it's like. You're not sort of confined into just a singular space once you're inside of the wild. You can structure a presentation that moves between spaces to be able to tell a story better, and you use these portals to do that. You can see Nick's got this space out here. He's able to scoop up Misha inside of it, and then he can scoop us inside of it, which then starts to load this in real time. You can see it's a great way to travel together. I mean, in this case, these are entirely different projects, but you can also travel between different versions of the same project if you load them into separate spaces. But now we're here inside of another OMFG Coast space. This is a Stumptown, a coffee shop, one of our local coffee shops here in Portland, Oregon. And they designed this one out, and now you can explore this, right here inside of the wild. So it's, there are many great use cases for this, but one I would say is even moving through old portfolio items. Like, you're in a design review and you want to reference some project you did a year ago. It's just that easy to scoop everyone inside of a portal into that project. You can go look at something or collect an asset from this space and then bring it back into that pink rabbit space. Or, there are all different ways to utilize this as a way to not just, like we're accustomed to navigating a single file, but rather thinking of it as literally, digital real estate that you can really effectively move between in real time. Without pre-sharing any of these assets, just as if you were to unlock a new door and go into that, and go into that new room. We even have people, honestly, that use the wild as a meeting space, like conference space. You can go here into our workshop and just, if you're a distributed team, just use this as a place to share site references or different materials or images, documentation, floor plans, and so on. All of that is possible in the wild. Now, one more thing I want to show you is the ability to access any of this content from augmented reality. So you'll see here, let me switch to my cam view, the wild can show up on an iPad as well. You still have access to all of your stuff. You can move between your different projects and spaces. And then to enter into a space, you just go ahead and let me go to our webinar space and the pink rabbit one. And then you can hand this off, and I'm going to have somebody walk into the other room to show you what that looks like. So now we're looking at the augmented reality view of moving back into that pink rabbit space. You can, in real time, now look at this space injected into the physical room that we're inside of here. So there's Clay walking past the space, and what you're literally seeing is an augmentation of this entire space inside of the physical space that we're looking at. So this is just amazing for a number of reasons. Number one, if you have access to the physical space then you can literally do exactly what we're doing here. You can augment that digital idea on top of or inside of the physical space. So if this was an entire building on an empty lot, you're able to literally project that into the physical space and walk physically around the entire building. But also you can do this scale model view that we're showing here, which is let's just have multiple people at the same time meeting around this digital model and create a more immersive way to present rather than just looking at this on top of a screen. So you could have multiple iPads like this and be walking around looking at the exact same thing. And yet still you can see Nick's inside of the model there, so you have access to somebody joining from all these other devices in virtual reality in real time. And so it's just, I just wanted to give you a taste today of all these different ways that you can utilize the wild, and in all of these different formats. So whether we're on desktop, like I was showing you here, just looking at it on a regular Windows computer, or whether you're on a Mac in just 2D mode exploring that content, but from anywhere in the world, or whether you're in a virtual reality headset like Nick and Misha, or perhaps an iOS device like an iPad or an iPhone, and projecting that into the physical world. There are all different ways to get at this content because it's located in the cloud, and so it's really just unlocking access to your ideas and to understand them not just as an image, not just as a fly through of that space, but immersively. You know, even the iOS device, putting that iPad up to your face and moving around, it feels still far more immersive than just looking at that objectively through that window on a screen. Okay, so we're right at time to sort of open this up for questions. I'm going to bring Clay into the space. Okay, so Clay's joining us here. This is Clay Walsh, our marketing director, and I'm going to maybe ask a few questions from the group.
Yeah, so we just got one in here. Can the AR experience also be run from Android devices or just iPhones and iPads?
Yes, currently it is iOS only, and so you have to be on either an iPad or iPhone that supports ARKit to run the wild. And feel free, in Zoom, you'll see there's a ask a question, I think it says, so you can feel free to go down there. And I should have told you guys this at the top of the top of this.
They're coming in.
But good. Feel free to ask. Go ahead, Clay.
Okay, this is a good one. How many people can be in the model at one time?
Yeah, great question. So currently, we say 9 people inside of a space at a time. That isn't a technical limit. There's nothing that blocks people from joining after 9. And we have had more than that in the space at a single time. However, I recommend, as sort of like a social constraint, that the wild is really the best for small groups to work together and to talk through a design. We've really built it with this small team collaboration in mind. It's a much different thing, you know, if you're planning a meeting for 5 people versus 30 people. Like, there's a very different format to that. And we've really optimized the wild for a meeting for, 2 to 10 people, or just going in there alone. But it's this idea of small teams working together, immersive.
All right, we have a lot of questions here. So can you describe, Gabe, the support for spot and emissive lighting?
Spot and emissive lighting. Good question. So currently, there are a number of different ways to deal with lighting in the wild. I will say, maybe Misha or Nick, if you're listening, let's go back into Pink Rabbit so that we can show off some of this stuff. That would be awesome. But basically, you do have access to there is a sun, so that gives you access to be able to move in the sky and view different lighting configurations from that single source. That is currently the only lighting source available inside of the wild. Now, we do have a number of customers who have developed workflows for baking lighting in programs like 3D Studio Max. So you could take your SketchUp model, bring it into 3D Studio, change out the materials, create like a complex lighting structure, bake that lighting in, and then you have a much higher fidelity version of lighting inside of the wild. And so we really recommend that if visual aesthetic is important to you, to use your visualization team to improve the lighting in that regard. We do like the idea of adding more lighting capabilities into the wild, but there's always a cost, of performance and optimization. And so we try to balance that. I'm just going to switch over here quickly. Guys, can you just show us what it's like moving the sun in the sky and the result that has? So yeah, you see, you can take that single lighting source and that'll change the shadows just to do a quick sun study.
All right, let's keep asking,
Go ahead.
Answering some questions. So can the wild function without an online connection?
It cannot. One of the big things about the wild is that it's always connected and everything is live. We have not built in an offline mode at this point. But I will say the caveat to that is that the wild works quite well over even a hotspot connection. So often when I'm traveling to showcase the wild at a conference or at a potential, or even at a customer's location, I'll just bring a hotspot with me or even my phone, and the wild works, just like this on that lighter weight connection as well.
And sort of on the same line of questioning, is the performance the same in SketchUp versus Revit versus BIM 360?
Yeah, so performance is a little bit of a squishy term. There are different kinds of performance and different complexities of models that always become a challenge. I did want to note a lot of times optimization, especially with SketchUp, comes into play. This is a real-time environment. It's not just that it runs in virtual reality in real time, but it's the real-time streaming of it between all these different points that you really want your environment to be as lightweight as possible, or your SketchUp model to be as lightweight as possible, so that it's distributed quickly. Now, we do a lot of optimization on our side, but there are limits to that. And so we recommend using, it's called SKIMP, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so SKIMP is an excellent asset for optimizing a SketchUp model. It's SKIMP. And maybe we can drop the link to their website into the chat.
Sure.
Great tool for optimizing your SketchUp model with minimal effort, and especially if you have some really heavy asset, from the warehouse or just that you have, like a chair with a million polys in it. It can really help to streamline that asset and make it ready for the wild.
All right, a few more questions, although we are at time, so if you have to hop off, please do. But otherwise, I'm going to keep going with the questions. There's some really good ones here. We just talked about this. Corey asked, do you have best practice guide for optimizing SketchUp models for VR? And I will say we have a help center and our knowledge base on our website, so much information, including this note about SKIMP, about optimizing your models for use in the wild. And then there is a question from Justin that says, are there file size limitations?
So overall, I think that the model that we end up shipping to the wild, I think we have a 1 gigabyte cap on that. So yes, there is currently a file size limitation on what you ship over, and that's why we recommend optimizing prior to bringing it inside. Any content that you add inside of the wild is not limited. There's not like a certain amount of things that you can spawn in the wild before it goes crazy. It's just part of our optimization pipeline. Once it's in the wild, we want to make sure that what comes into the wild is of high quality and going to work well. But once it's in there, we do our best to allow you, let you work without a lot of limitations.
Great. A couple more questions here. We did talk about lighting, but what about PBR textures?
Oh, good question. So we do support PBR materials. I'm not sure if there are any in this model. Maybe Misha, you can bring one out to show us.
The floor is a PBR asset.
Yeah. So sorry, say that again.
You said the floor was a PBR asset.
Oh, the floor is a PBR asset. So yeah, this is a brick material that's a PBR asset. So for those that don't know, PBR stands for physical based rendering, and it's a way to get even out of our sort of simple lighting inside of the wild. You can still get really high quality materials that are very lightweight on the geometry side. So we do have support for PBR materials. You can bring them in a number of different ways. I want to sort of stay focused on the SketchUp workflow, but you can see here that if you're applying these materials to surfaces inside of the wild, it's a good way to sort of take SketchUp materials and then provide a higher and then augment them with a higher quality material. Just maybe one more question.
Okay. There are so many questions, so I'll just go with one last one here. Somebody wants to know, would an imported GLTF file be able to be leveraged, be able to leverage the model performance optimization
Yes.
provided by the wild?
Great question. GLTF is an excellent, so I didn't say this, but you can bring all different types of files, not just, I was showing you importing SKP files, but you'll see here if I go to new import 3D asset, here are all the different 3D assets that we support bringing in, including GLTF and GLB. And that's a great format for not only creating performative materials, but also bringing in those PBR assets into the wild, because those are all baked inside of that GLTF. So we really recommend it, and it still leverages the optimization we do inside of our cloud. So I guess the simple answer to your question is yes, and it's a highly recommended workflow. Okay, so
we do have one last question.
Oh, okay.
Bjorn asks, what is the best way to get started?
Oh, great question. So go to thewild.com, and you'll see that there's a button there to get in contact with us. Also, if you have other questions, I just urge you to go ahead onto our website, thewild.com, click to request access, and we can give you a deeper demo, talk to your specific workflow, and really talk about how you can get started working with the wild today. Thank you guys so much for joining. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope to see you in the wild someday very soon. Take care.